Hello and welcome to Andertons TV. My name is Jack Duxbury. He's Tay-Tay.
Yeah.
That's the Poly D. That's the 2600. Both by Behringer. Why are they on my desk? You may be thinking apples, oranges. But the currency at the moment says that they're very similarly priced from us at Andertons. That may change, but at the moment it might be a toss-up for someone who's got touch under £600 in their pocket and they want a synthesizer, and you can't have both. Which one? We're going to talk about the differences, demonstrate some of the core meaty differences between the two with some audio examples and some customary bullshit from me. Right, let's fire through this. Poly D 37 note keyboard. That is the big thing hitting me in the face here when I sit at it. That's allowing me to play both these things. Can't really do it without it. And if you don't have a keyboard, that might be a really big factor for you. What's nice as well, it's really easy to play. I know I'm a bit crooked up playing this way, but it feels nice to shred on, and there's aftertouch in there on the back on a big jack that you can plumb into other devices, other keyboards and itself. That's cool. The other thing is in the name. They're both semi-modular, so that means that despite both of these having no presets and it all being as you see it, a lot of the synthesizer parts of each synthesizer are pre-patched, which means they're called semi-modular. On the 2600, that was a bit of a big thing for me to get my head around. There's a lot of options, but there's a lot of information here with these orange labels that kind of guide you in the right way. I found it a bit more familiar here on the Poly D and a bit easy to get my head around, so that might be a consideration. For me, this is definitely a bit of a learning curve, so if you're new to synthesis, maybe the Poly D's for you. And also it's got this great feature which is polyphony. Kinda. It's periphony, I'd say, technically, because we get multiple notes but they all share the same filter, which means if you played them at different times they wouldn't die off at different times because it's just sharing one filter, if that makes sense. Anyway, we'll try demonstrate that. That intro sound, we had 4 saw waves on here and 3 saw waves on here. And I thought the 2600 did really well considering it was one less in terms of the oscillator count, but they're all untuned. Well, they're tuned but not detuned at the moment. Spit it out, Jack. Right, here we go. So this is mono. Sounds really fat. Just going to show you the big feature. If I flick it to poly, I should be able to play a chord with it. So let's try it. Yes, and that is mad. 4-note chord. And I'll show you something as well. I'll play that big dense chord and we'll just give you the character of the filter. I tried to show that in the intro as well. We've got a Moog ladder filter. So I'll sweep that down. And I think where it lives down here is beautiful. Sounds like the fattest Juno I've ever heard, okay? And you think, oh, Juno, it's got a built-in chorus, which you'll hear when I flick it in. If you've got headphones, doosh, it's going to go stereo as a... And this auto damp feature here is a really clever way. I won't go into it, I've done other videos on it, but really easy way to get it kind of behaving. You saw me there, playing chords, no problem. So awesome. Also, let's just talk about the other effect it's got in there. You've got 2 types of chorus. You can get that crazy. Also got distortion in there. Shaves off a lot of the bottom end. Like my beard. go back into mono and see what that sounds like. Off. Woo! So it's giving it loads of spice there. Let's try it. With the chorus. So I love the effects, I love the polyphony, just the right amount. It's like, hey, most of the time I just want a mono synth to do bass and leads, but with the Poly D, it can be one of the best, fattest sounding poly synths you could have. So that's pretty much the Poly D in a nutshell. Let's flick over to the 2600, and if I turn these bits off, which I think they are, drop the resonance, still there with our 4 saw waves, okay? Let's keep that going. I will drop the volume on that and introduce, and you can hear maybe the character. We're gonna do some flip-flopping, okay? So. One more time. Ooh. It's got some real low mid heft coming through in these speakers. I don't know if you're feeling that as well. These do sound like they're tuned, sometimes when they're tuned too closely together, it can kind of phase cancel out. So I can hear a bit of that. I'll stay here with the art for now, and then we'll do some detuning in a minute. Let's hear that on its own. And I've shown off one of the features that's so cool, right? If I take these out, probably heard the character change. That's because it's pre-patched as to have square waves out of these 2 oscillators. And a lot of the features of the 2600 and a lot of why you're going to buy it is if you want to use patch cables, and maybe you've got an inkling, maybe you just love records with the 2600, because as many famous records as there are with Mini Moog sounds on Mini Moog sounds and Juno sounds, there's loads with the 2600. So maybe you've already made your mind up. But this would, as a guy maybe looking to get into modular, this might be able to satisfy your desire, because, hey, we got, I think there's 78 faders on here. I've made a note, and 83 patch points. 83 patch points. And if you think of the multiplications of the possibilities of that, it's incredible, right? But I did it in a very simple way, which is, I can go in here and it says saw, plug it in there, and we've got a mixer here, whereas all of this is pre-patched. Imagine that on the Poly D. Like, I can't change that routing. I mean, I think there are. Let's have a look. There's pitch, velocity, aftertouch. Yeah, there's some routing possible on the back, but again with big 1/4" jacks, this gives you kind of the modular experience. If I plug that in here to VCO1 and I go here to the saw, this is how I got that patch at the beginning. And you can see on the labels below, square, square, saw. Very idiosyncratic. To me, as a guy that wasn't familiar with the 2600, it took me a while to get my head around those things. If you know that, you already know. But again, maybe if you want that learning curve, this is the synth for you, because I feel it's kind of sparked my brain up a bit, and I've had to think a lot more about this one. Had to think a lot about more. One of the cool things that Behringer have done is that in the history of the 2600 there were different filter revisions, and in the beginning you may have heard me flick this switch when I was playing it. That's because there are both revisions in there. So that's good if you're a connoisseur or just for a different flavour. I'm going to sweep that, see if you can hear the difference, okay? (4012). Let's put some resonance, because normally that will introduce some character. So we're going to go about 3/4 on the resonance. Yeah, it just takes off around there in the low mids. I'm sure there's other crazy things and people will be listening for the differences. One of the things that Luke showed me from Korg when he came in was how the sample and hold module here, and just generally the patchability of the synth lends itself to its character. And it's got one thing, we showed off the effects on the Poly D, but over here, check this out. Got a little bit of flavour there on the outputs with a digital recreation of the inbuilt spring reverb. Now, just before we film this video, Behringer have announced that they're going to do reissues of limited runs that they did back in the day. I think it's the blue one and a grey one, blue mini, grey mini, I think so. I've got a good friend, Sino, if you're out there watching, I know that you're after that. And that should be around hopefully before summer. But at the moment, and also I can imagine people wanting the spring reverb. I'm not sure if that's going to add to the size or not, but that sounds really cool for me and just a nice effect. You can see how different they are. But hey, at my studio, I've got some rack space. This fits into a rack. This would go on top of the rack, and I can imagine this controlling that, and then we could put them together, and I wonder what that would sound like. I summon the hand of Tay-Tay! blasting at Tay-Tay there. But I'm just fiddling there with the effects and the cutoff frequency, a little bit of tuning, doing nothing to show the capabilities of the modulation that are in both of these. And so tip of the iceberg stuff, maybe we're going to do a lot more videos because I think we're a Behringer Uber Mega Super Dealer now, which means I know a lot of you are a bit freaked out by Behringer, but if you haven't tried one of the synths, I implore you to try it and just judge it on an instrument, how it makes you feel. And hopefully we're going to get a lot more access and hands on these instruments because I think they're genuinely amazing. And what I would have done for this maybe 10 years ago when I was at college, or what my dad could have done if he could have afforded one of these instead of just, you know, be angry at me for the rest of my life for having stolen his money essentially by being born. But that's pretty deep. I'm going to play you out with some stuff. Thanks for watching. If you like what we're doing, consider subscribing. If you don't, let us know. We'll try and learn from it. And any ideas you got, throw it in the comments section. Thanks Tay-Tay as ever. Couldn't do it without him. And I'm going to pick off where I left off. And we're going to go for a bit of D minor this time and see what happens. Yay!